All right, let's talk the Lighthouse. And let's get into it, shall we?
Hmm.
um that was
What do you
interesting.
think? Yeah,
That
I want
was
to hear what you think
interesting.
first.
All
Yeah.
right, so and I still might be right about this, so you're gonna have to let me know. But
Well, it's ambiguous,
I
so it
really
should be.
feel like they were the same people the entire time.
That is definitely something that's hinted at, but is never explicitly said.
Yeah, it's never shown. Like I
They
expected
both
like
have
a
the same
reveal,
name. They both
but
have the same name.
yeah. And then there's
Uh,
times when like he's holding onto the pipe, and the
exactly. That's
LED,
what I was gonna
and
say.
I
In
was
that very
like,
first scene when they're drinking, like the first time
yeah,
they drink together, they switch the cigarette and the pipe. Like, I think
exactly.
that's another insinuation that they're both the same person. Especially the name thing. When they introduced the name thing, like when the
Hmm.
first time we're the older Thomas that gets killed, Willem Dafoe. When he reveals his name the first time, he's completely you can't see him. He's sitting in front of the lens, but he's
Hmm.
completely blacked out in darkness, and you only see the real Thomas
Hmm.
or real Tom. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
The
That
the whole lighthouse thing, I kind of don't get a
I
little
can
bit.
help probably put some shed some light on that
Yeah,
probably.
go for it. Cause like I was kind of like lost a little bit, cause I was like, I mean, I thought it was an interesting idea, and there's like a lot of ambiguity in that, like the whole idea. But like, I still don't know if I understand the mermaid and the lighthouse thing. Like,
So basically, to put it very basically, is that uh Robert Pattinson, Tom, he had killed somebody when he was
mm-hmm,
younger.
mm-hmm,
And basically, like, you can view this whole lighthouse and island as a purgatory or hell, pretty
mm-hmm.
much.
Okay.
So, and there's a lot of mythology kind of linked to this. The very last shot is almost like a direct reference to Prometheus,
Mm-hmm.
where Prometheus was a man who went and stole fire to give it to man and was punished where every day a eagle would come and peck out his liver.
Hmm.
So almost like a direct reference. And also, um, I think the older keeper Tom, I'm just gonna say Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson because
Mm-hmm.
well,
Mm-hmm.
them both having the same name. Willem Dafoe says that Saint Elmo lit when he was talking about his last wiki that was with him. He said that he thought that Saint Elmo had lit the fire inside the lighthouse, and Saint Elmo is the saint of the sea.
Okay.
So
See,
it's
I was
like
kind of
he
getting
almost
that, cause like the
he kind of
whole.
literally refers to it as like fire.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I kind of look at it is that it's hard. I think it's hard to say whether Willem Dafoe is actually there or not, or just a complete figment
I think he's a
of his
complete
imagination.
figment. Like
But
I
you can
just
all
do.
what the important part about it is that he's passing judgment.
He
The
is.
entire time he is writing in his book, he's sitting on this tower looking
Mm-hmm.
down at Robert Pattinson. Like he's basically like when I first saw this movie, I thought it was like kind of very literal, where I was like, oh, he's God. But
Mm-hmm. I
I
could see
don't think
that.
it's really that straightforward. I think he's kind of omniscient like a god, but he doesn't have power like a god, you know?
He
So
could
he's
be
just like this
seen as
judgment. Yeah.
like an internal conflict of him, like
Who's
like the.
Saint Peter who's at like the gates of heaven, like in
Mm-hmm.
Christianity? I kind of view him as that. Like as
Oh,
like
okay.
but also I think when I was watching it this time, that it's kind of like maybe this is like the the reason of Tom's mind, like they're split into two paths where, there's Tom, Robert, and Pattinson, where he's constantly seduced by violence, sexuality,
Mm.
control. The entire movie, he's haunted by these sins pretty much. And I kind of view Willem Dafoe's character as like the reasonable, like half of his mind, basically,
Mm-hmm.
where he's like, oh, you should be doing this, go do this.
Yeah,
And
like
he's
the
like,
work hard and
so
live
it's
a
like two
life.
parts of the same mind, like fighting each other. Even with like the alcohol, like at first he doesn't want to. Even like the good side of him is like, hey, you can drink. I say you can. Like you're not supposed to technically, but I'm letting you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like this kind of self-conscious thing, like, oh, like I can have a drink. That's not that bad. But when it comes to murder, obviously the moral part of your mind's like, hey, what the fuck,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so I think he's just there to judge and kind of determine whether he's worthy to see the light or not,
Mm-hmm.
basically. Um, but yeah, that's like for you know. There's lots of small details that I love, like the seagull. I don't know if you noticed. It had an eye missing,
Which one? The
and
one he
when he,
killed or the one that was
the one he
already in?
killed,
Okay.
yeah, the one he killed has an eye missing, and then when he pulls that lobster basket out of the sea, and the heads that's inside of it, that was Winslow, has an eye
Mhm.
missing.
Mhm.
So basically, him killing the seagull was like him killing Winslow. That
Mhm.
set this whole,
I thought I kind of
process in
saw
motion.
that, like this whole
Yeah.
idea of like that. No,
And all
I
this
mean,
also I like, what like, at the very end there where he's going through the book and he's like, "Oh, look at all these things you wrote about me." All the things he wrote
mhm.
about him were true.
Mhm.
You know,
No,
everything
exactly.
in there was true. Yeah, like, so it's very, very ambiguous, but I think it's very safe to say that it's basically like this personal hell or this judgment for Tom,
Mhm.
because he is murdered, and I think it's more of a subconscious thing because he can't even deal with the fact that he did it.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
he's
kind of how
lying
I
to
felt
himself.
about it.
Yeah, that he even like, when Willem Dafoe says to Robert Pattinson, he's like, "You're lying to yourself. He's like, you're an open book, but you don't even know."
Mhm.
So it's very
Well, there's like
also
that whole
Winslow. I don't
thing
know if you
with like
caught it.
the
There's a time where Robert Pattinson was really drunk and he was talking about how Winslow used to boss him around. That's why he took his name.
yeah.
Is because that's the guy he killed. But what other things can I talk about? I can talk about a lot of technical stuff also.
Mhm. Why is it shot in like the what's that? Is that like 4:3 resolution or whatever?
No, it's
Fucking
not
square.
exactly square, so it's some weird aspect
Uh.
ratio. But the reason it's shot like that, which I love, because I like to, at least for cinematography, I'd like to
Mhm.
base future projects of mine around this movie because it uses the aspect ratio for confinement. People are confined,
Oh, is
like
that
they're in this
why they're
small
doing that?
lighthouse. Yeah, that's why they picked it.
I gotta say, I
Is
love
that
that. That like this whole. I'm a big advocate for like low, um, like just low location movies like this because like if you look at the amount of locations, they're like totally just on this island. Like,
well,
there's
okay, it
not
was shot
really
in Nova
shots like
Scotia.
outside of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. But the thing is that they built an entire lighthouse on that island for this movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sure. I didn't say it was low budget. I just meant
Yeah.
like there's not like a lot of
It's a
locations.
contain it's like a, you could look at it as like a bottle episode of like a TV show where it all takes place in the same
Hmm.
spot, or like a bottle
And
scene.
I
Yeah.
like things like that, especially when they're going for this like omniscient like confined movie play style where like because when you have like something like this where like they're moving from location to location, it takes away from the idea that like confinement is like a fear that like a lot of people actually do have, is this idea of being in like a closed spot like that. So like by creating that, you're actually creating like suspense quite easily just by doing that, in my personal
Mhm.
opinion.
Yeah.
um but no, I love that, and I love the fact that it's like shot in like on the film with the black and white too, because like, dude, like the
Yes. I can
gray
go. I
and like
have
the black and
something pulled
white
up here.
just
Yes,
does it
for
does
that.
numbers on making, again, just setting that tone, this suspenseful like I was pretty much for the most part like, sure, there was dialogue and stuff like that that pulled you away occasionally, but for the most part you never knew what was gonna happen, and it created like a lot of suspense. Like there was a lot of times where like I wouldn't say I was like on the edge of my seat like in fear or something, but like I was on the edge of my seat in terms of like what are they gonna do next? Like what is happening? You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and I feel like that like the whole tonality of that is brought forth by, I mean, not only just like the extreme, like acting and the story and all that, but also just the additions of the black and white with the film grain, with the aspect ratio. Like I feel like all of that just combines to really sell you on this like suspenseful like movie. And I think it does
Mhm.
a really good job at that.
Yeah. See, like the thing about using a square aspect ratio is that a lot of times it's done without a purpose. I
Mhm.
can say from a film student perspective, I've seen so many times where it's like, we're gonna shoot this movie, make it, 4:3. Why not? And I'm like, why? There should be a reason.
Mhm.
This movie does it well. Another movie I just rewatched recently called Mommy also has, it's shot like a, almost like a vertical cell phone footage. It's like a vertical aspect ratio, but it's very on
Yeah.
purpose for that, again, that confinement. Like the world is closed off to this character, so it's used in a very purposeful way. So when it's used like that, I love it. Like,
Mhm.
but a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, just slap it on. Like, who cares? Make it
No,
square.
Do you know technically why they went for the black and white as well? And did it
Yes,
on
for just
film?
for atmosphere and
Okay.
also for they were talking about they didn't do it digitally and just desat like make it black and white digitally through
Mm-hmm.
post processing. They wanted to do it on actual film because of the film latitude. For basically, film latitude is like dynamic range
Mm-hmm.
for film. So
I did notice
you
that
can
actually.
like if you look how dark the
Yep.
blacks are, they are pitch black, and that's
Yep.
something you can only do with negative film. And that's another thing I was gonna comment on how dark it is and how
Yeah.
well lit it is. So I was gonna pull up a thing right here. I'll get into that.
I was gonna.
So
Okay, there was before you get into that.
mhm,
Because like obviously, and you're aware of this too. I took like that photography class,
yes.
and so like I'm very aware of negatives and like the whole,
Mhm.
especially because he grinded into our minds that if there was like any form of white on the paper that you're developing it wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Oh, you missed
white
out on that actually because you ended up
no, no,
like you
I
had to
well,
do
I
it
mean,
digital.
dude, I know film.
Well, yeah,
It's
I know you
white
know
is
film, but
black in a negative. So if it's white, then it's completely without any sort of, you
light.
know, light at
But
all.
when he was like when we were developing, like if you had a black on your negative and then like you brought it in and developed it onto the piece of paper, you couldn't have white. Like you had to try and get it to like a tonal gray that's just above. He did not like white
Yeah. Well,
anywhere
usually
because
because
it blends into
straight
the
white's
paper.
overexposed. Yeah,
Exactly.
and yeah.
So, but what I was gonna say was there was a lot of times when I was watching this and I was just like, wow, like the lighting is really fucking good.
Yes,
And
I can get
especially
into
with like how they developed like that film and stuff like that, like yeah, you definitely get like when they're in like a closed going down a hallway and stuff like that, or like their interior and it's supposed to be black, like it is full black. You can't, it's no like nowadays, like you were just saying, like digital black can sometimes just be like a really dark gray and you can kind of tell that, but like this was black, and then like
Mhm.
the when it was supposed to be like outside or like there was supposed to be like a lot of like tonals and like the grass and stuff, that did really like overall like the lighting's really good. That's about all I'm trying to get across. It's like it really
Yes.
adds to atmosphere. But go ahead, go
And
ahead.
after I tell you this, the lighting becomes even more impressive if you ask me. So in this article, IndieWire article, it's the cinematographer and director.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking and it said Kodak makes a double X and tri X film. So tri
Mm-hmm.
X is the reason they didn't use tri X is because it's 16 millimeter and they wanted to use 35. And it would
Mm-hmm.
cost too much to transfer it to. This basically would be doubling, and it's just too much money. So they went with double X, which I think maybe has a lower ISO or ASA, in which they use for film, which is basically the same thing. So uh, let me just for our film, the kind of broken down look, the double X was actually more suitable. Oh, this isn't even the part I'm looking for. Where's the fuck? I thought I had this. Where is he talking about the ASA and shit? Okay, here it is. Yes, Kodak rates double X at 250 ASA, which you can again, it's ISO.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know 250, that's not very high. That's
No.
like the most in like still photography you usually shoot at is like 200.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so they were shooting at 250, and then uh, they had a custom filter that they put on the front of it. So when you see the detail in their faces, apparently it's because of this custom filter they had made for the lens. But
Mm.
that also cuts a stop off of it, which is it's half as much light as it was before.
Oh my god.
So
Holy
then doing
shit.
that, apparently the ASA was around 160.
That's incredible.
And then, so I think they wanted to originally shoot with actual candlelight, but that is impossible. I'm telling you, that's impossible to see anything if you're shooting at an ASA of 160.
Yeah, no
The only
way. You wouldn't
time
be able to develop that.
natural candlelight has been used with film is Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon because he used a special lens that was used to take photographs in space because the aperture opened wider than any lens possible like made to that point, so
Mm-hmm.
you could capture the most light possible. So in Barry Lyndon, Kubrick pulled it off. This movie, they could not do that. So their solution basically is all the candlelight and all the light sources you see are really like horrendously bright LED lights.
Really?
Like put in a candle holder. Yes.
Oh my god.
Like
That's
like if
awesome.
you're in person, it is blinding. I'm telling you. Like complete so much light. But also as a result of that, the contrast between the shadows and like the light is even
Mm-hmm.
greater And with that, high contrast film that they went for, the blacks are blacker, whites are probably close to the same, but it really creates that super contrasty like look that this entire movie has. So
Mm-hmm.
on a technical level, this is like a cinematography masterpiece, if you ask me. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a couple shots. There's one where it cranes up the entire lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
That they built an entire lighthouse, I think, just to do that shot. I think also they might have needed to build it to shoot directly down on them when they were drinking the kerosene in the lighthouse,
Yep.
like directly from above.
When they did the
Uh,
monkey beat.
yes, monkey pump.
Monkey bump, and then they go, "Arr!" Fucking freak out.
But yeah, so they built an entire lighthouse just for this. There's also something I've just noticed this time watching. Even though it is shot on film, there is digital effects. Like some of them when he's smashing that seagull over, like when
Mm-hmm.
he's killing it, all the blood splatter on that well is all digital effects, and I can tell
Yeah, I
this
thought
time.
that. Yeah, I was pretty certain of that. He beat
Yeah,
the
but
shit out of that seagull.
yeah. There's literally no other way you could have done that is the thing. So, and it's not noticeable really if you're caught up in the moment.
No,
Maybe for
and
us
definitely
because
with
we
the
know
black and
to
white
look
and
for it.
film grain, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, definitely with that, like it was definitely hard to piece out, but like I could
Yeah.
kind of tell just because of like how it was splattering and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But like if you weren't looking for it, like no way, like it'd be
But I
way more
like
harder to see
I
it.
like that. Like they're because basically what happens is that they shoot it on film, convert it into digital, and then they could do visual effects
Mm-hmm.
through digital means, but while
Which is
still
really
keeping that.
cool.
Yeah. I think that's something that I don't think enough filmmakers can. Well, a lot of big, production companies don't even shoot on film anymore because it's way more
Mm-hmm.
expensive than digital. So you don't see a lot of film, unless they're like coming out of A24. You don't see a lot of actual film movies around just for that fact. Um, but I think that's a tool that has come around recently where you can add digital effects to film, like actual film, which is something that you could never do before. So I think using it in that way is something I can't think off the top of my head. Something I've seen before. I mean, besides like, I guess technically, when they're still using like blue screen and like I'm sure the original like the prequels for Star Wars are like shot on film still probably because that was like 90s. But I just think it's a good marriage because honestly, I think visual effects to begin with should always be small things, never big things, because when
Mm-hmm.
they're big things, they're very noticeable that they're fake. So something like a blood splatter like that, is perfect to use that technique because it's so small that if anybody even notices, they're not going to care. It's like a whole character is fake and not there. But what else can I talk about this movie?
I mean, it's highly rated. This movie actually has some high ratings for something so, in my opinion, artsy.
Yeah, it got
This is the type
I
of
gotta say, when it
I'm
was
really
out for the
surprised.
Oscars, it got snubbed for performances. Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe fucking killed it, both of
Oh,
them,
they
and neither of
did.
them got nominated. Uh, I think like man, Robert Pattinson just keeps getting better and better.
Hmm.
Oh,
The
he is
acting
just
is
like
really
fine wine.
good, and like the fact that the one of the big things for me is like the voice acting, like the way in which not
Their
only just
accents
their
are great.
tonality but also yeah
Mhm.
their accents, like you felt like it was like the 1890s sitting
Yeah,
on this like island
New
working
England.
like the
Yeah.
lighthouse, New England accents. Like I was
Yeah,
like,
like,
wow.
especially Robert Pattinson's, like, I think Willem Dafoe has more like a sailor's accent, I guess,
Yeah,
but
he
Robert
does.
Pattinson's is just like a straight up, like, New England accent, and it is
Mhm.
really good, like, us being from New England, we would be able to tell,
Mhm.
if it's not very well done. I was convinced all the way through that he had that accent. Uh,
No, it's definitely really well done. And like I said, also their tonality. Like the moment sometimes with movies, especially and I'm gonna bring up like blockbusters because like, those aren't artsy movies usually. Um, like you tend to see acting with tonality that is like they end up like having high like levels of like their levels peak at one point where like they get their with their accent they're like stronger, like they're aggravated or angry or something like that when you don't really feel the same expression on their face. And in this case, whenever they had that expression of like whatever they were feeling, whether it was joyous happiness from being drunk or whether it was angry, like the tonality in their voice and their shifts were like on par with their expressions and their like put forth like emotions, if that makes sense. I don't know if I explained that the best, but basically like their acting was the way in which their voices could be portrayed by the viewer went along and worked really well with what was actually happening on screen visually in the form of their
Mhm.
expressions, right? And that sometimes doesn't happen. And I'm not saying that's because in some other movies that I'm talking about in these retrospects are like they're bad actors. It's just because sometimes that just doesn't happen naturally.
Mhm.
It is
Very
very
hard.
hard for an
Yeah.
actor to match what they're saying to what they should be feeling, right? Because
Mhm.
that's all part of acting.
100%. Yeah.
But the expressions were like spot on. Like I felt what they were feeling. Like I was like,
Mhm.
whoa.
Yeah,
Especially especially when he threw the shit overboard and it came back at him. Oh man, I just sat there and went, oh, that's gonna suck. And then he's like screaming, and I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'd feel the same way if I got shit
yeah.
back in my face.
I, I also just want to draw attention to the writing. This was both written and directed by Robert Eggers,
Mm-hmm.
and the way he wrote this script is he wrote it all in this old sailor like talk. That's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. Like he must have studied, like, I know he did because
He had
I
to
think
have.
he's a history buff as far as I know. So
Mm-hmm.
he's definitely studied like how they talked, but to write a whole movie just like that, and especially like a way that people talk so far in the past, like, that's like 200 years ago. People
Mm-hmm.
were talking like that. So I think it's pretty incredible
No, I gotta agree
that
with
it sounds
that.
so authentic. Like, I also really like whenever they go on like long monologues. It just feels like fits really well with the way it's presented. Like it makes sense that like when Willem Dafoe stands up and goes "Ark," like it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't seem out of place. It seems very dramatic and theatrical,
Mm-hmm.
maybe in a way that like in any other movie would be like over the top. But in
Mm-hmm.
this movie, like with the sailor talk and the atmosphere and the mythology that they're always talking about, like, oh, it's about to kill a gull, it's talking about Saint Elmo, like this
Mm-hmm.
whole theatrical kind of like old way, like old storytelling, like completely works
Oh, it
in the
does.
writing. So I think it's a great example of something that's like, it is over the top. It's completely. It's like, you know, watch almost any scene and they're just like going fucking nuts most of the time. But it's completely believable because of the way that it's presented and like set up.
And like the choices of words too, like you were talking like in terms of the script with like how it's written in like that old tongue, but at the same time like it has these like I'm gonna use the layman's terms of like big words, but it does like
Mhm.
it like uses like good vocabulary to portray the same points, even though it's written in this old tongue, like this like sailor language, like it's still like it portrays the same thing, but then they throw in these like massive vocabulary words that, I mean, you could have said a different way, but like it just adds to this like, historical feel to it because like,
Yeah.
like uh,
It's like they're telling this
it's
a
like
sea tale.
yeah, it's like they're telling like they're reading something from like a like a book written by like a sailor, but like it's like
Hmm.
a story, like they're trying to sell you on like this like this mythological god that is gonna like rain down hell upon you for like,
Hmm.
you know, for like killing someone. Like I think that's fascinating and amazing. And another thing I want to bring up because I definitely felt this multiple times, especially at the end. I know I said it out loud. There's some fucking awesome shots in this movie.
Yes.
Like without people in it too. Like there was a
Composition's crazy.
yeah, the
Yeah.
composition is amazing. Like when he's saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have spilled your beans." Like I know that's the one that I'm gonna pick out
Spill
because
your
that's the one that
beans.
like I literally spoke out loud. But there's a point where it like goes to start panning down like the long hallway with multiple windows, and like that shot, I don't know why I felt like it was so crazy, but I was like, that shot is so cool. And I think it was just because like as it's panning, it looks like the windows are like duplicating. Like the hallway's getting longer and longer and longer. Even though like you are aware that it's a long hallway, because you've
Mhm.
seen them walk down this hallway before, it just feels like immensely longer because of the angle they chose to shoot it at, and then the way the pan and how slow it is and the speed. It just is like, okay, there's a window. Okay, the hallway's not over yet. There's another window, and like they're almost duplications of each other until finally it pans all the way, and then you see that there's like three or four windows down that hallway. There's the door at the end, but it's totally pitch black by that time, like all the way down at the back. Like it just adds this length to that hallway. And there's a lot of times where it does that. Like it shoots down like something and just shows like the massive length of something, even if it isn't necessarily that big. Like obviously
Yeah,
the
that's
lighthouse,
just
for instance, is big, but like,
mhm. That's basically what you're talking about. Like, it's just lens choice.
mm-hmm,
If you use a wide angle lens on, if you there's gonna be appear to be more depth. So when they're like tracking down that hallway, it seems really big because it's a very wide angle. If you were to use like a shorter, um, it's like no longer. I mean, a longer lens, it wouldn't really appear that way
mm-hmm,
because it would be more normalized. But there's lens like that's the thing about film is that there's will always be lens distortion. You know, it's never going to be completely unbiased. So the lens distortion kind of gives that feeling of like this big long hallway, which makes sense because Robert Pattinson's trying to get to this light and that's on the pathway to it and it seems really far away,
mm-hmm.
like
And he's got this guy
so
screaming at him, telling him he shouldn't have spilt his beans.
yeah. But they're like one of my favorite shots in the whole thing happened really, I think I said, like in that scene. Like really early on, I forget why, but Willem Dafoe slaps Robert
Oh,
Pattinson and he
um,
stands up
mm-hmm,
and it's a like shot from a low angle up and you see this giant shadow behind Robert Pattinson after he slaps him. And then immediately Willem Dafoe is scared because he sees, oh my God, this guy has darkness in him. And he's like, "Never mind me. Don't like forget anything happened. Like just like we'll carry on."
mm-hmm,
Because and that's like a beat like that is kind of universally read. Like I love that. That is completely wordless. Like this whole interaction happened where he saw that Robert Pattinson was capable of he's kind of like has this monster inside of him
mm-hmm.
just through the way the shot was composed. Like no words had to be said. I love it. It's
I think
fantastic.
it was about killing the gull actually, was why he slapped him. Because he says the guy Willem Dafoe goes, like, oh, I saw you sparring with the gull. You shouldn't kill a gull or
Mhm.
whatever. And he just says, like, another tall tale or something like that. And then Willem Dafoe
Oh
slaps
yeah.
him, right? But like, you're right. Like, he totally stands up, and then immediately there's just like that giant dark shadow that's just like
And then
cast
also,
behind
as
him.
the reverse shot, Willem Dafoe is being shot from a higher angle,
Hmm.
looking down on him, looking to make him more powerless.
And then he's like trembling too, which is fucking
Yes.
amazing
The
acting too, right
language of
there.
cinema. Mwah.
Yes, it's so perfect. Like you just see him. He can't even like take a bite anymore. He's just like hand and like fork in
Yeah.
hand and just like totally trembling like in fear because he's just so like scared now because he slapped
Mhm.
someone that he saw so much like darkness into.
Rage in. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Dark in.
so like he just realizes that like, oh, this guy could like kill me
Yeah.
like at
That's
any point
exactly what
now.
happens there. And
You know what
then
I mean?
again, all of that whole realization happens without anything being said.
Oh yeah, there's nothing like, oh, you're dark. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, there's no like any words. It's just
Yeah.
the only words out of his mouth after he does that slap is, "Oh, don't mind me. Sorry. Like, don't mind me,
Yeah.
son," or
The
something
only
like
time in
that.
the
And
movie
you're
where
like,
I feel
"What?"
like a character said something where I feel like it really didn't need to be said is when they get left there and like it cuts to them sitting. He's like, they didn't come.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I
was
kind
like,
of know that already. Well, why would they still be there if they came? You don't
yeah.
really need to say it, but that is like the biggest nitpick I could possibly give for this movie. Like, so much
Even
other stuff
though it
that gets
was
right.
said like the cinematography there with the camera and everything was okay
Hmm.
because you have them sitting across from the table. I thought that was a really cool shot of them both sitting there and like it's like contemplating what to do next. So like in a way I was kind of like okay, like whatever, right? But no, I can agree with that. But again, yeah, like you said, big nitpick. Like I don't really. It was like okay, like it
Yeah,
wasn't something that
exactly.
like
That's
ruined
such a
it or
minor
anything.
thing.
It
It
was
doesn't
so like
ruin the experience at all.
no, it
Like,
doesn't.
yeah,
But it definitely, like you said, didn't need to be said because like I actually knew when they were outside standing in the rain. Like I'm like
yeah,
they're
exactly.
not
Yeah,
coming. Like,
You could have just had a thing of them sitting there and like they just like start to drink and then it cuts. I think
mhm,
would be perfect. But also sound design, like that horn, that
mhm.
haunting like siren that is throughout the
Yes.
entire movie, like nagging at Robert Pattinson's character.
Mhm.
Pretty great.
And then there's like the screaming. There's a
The
lot of screaming
storm.
there with
There's
the
wind and storm
yep.
and very well done sound design.
Literally the only times where it's not omniscient like sound design or something that like I felt was like really like dark or like foreboding was just like the sequel moments. Whenever you heard a sequel, I was like, okay, they're like on the sea, so like that makes sense, you know. But like I was like, that's not like dark or foreboding. But like the horn, the screaming of like the sirens, like the
Mm-hmm.
wind, like the storminess, all of that was like dark and again added to that like tonality of the suspense and like
Mm-hmm.
oh man, just like scary. Scary
Yeah.
shit, man. I mean, they
Yeah.
also the
So
idea of just being stuck on an island,
yeah.
like scary shit. Also, I like the fact that their rations that they pulled out was just like all
Yeah, just
alcohol.
booze.
It's like come
By the
help
way, I don't know if
me.
this is
They dig it up,
intentional,
but
but in that scene where they're dancing, Willem Dafoe, he says he has a bum leg, and then he just starts dancing like a maniac. He's like, dance, Winslow, dance, and he's
yes.
like, I can't tell whether it's on purpose that it's like he's supposed to look uninjured at that point because like who knows if he's even real or not. But I think that's a nice little touch, like, oh, maybe he's like faking the whole leg thing also, or it adds a
Mm-hmm.
whole nother little dimension of whether or not it's hard. See, like even after watching the thing multiple times, you still are never sure exactly what happens. Like it's
No, I can
impossible
agree
to
with
know.
that.
It's very ambiguous,
I still
and
feel like there's like this deep seated thing. Like I'm so certain though that like they're the same person. It's crazy because like I could
you're
honestly write
probably
a
again.
list
It's
about it.
probably
You know what I
safe to
mean?
assume
But
that's like
like,
true. Yeah.
because even at the end, right? Like we look back on this leg thing. Now he goes and falls down the stairs and breaks his leg, and now he's gonna have a bum leg. Well, actually, he's not because he got picked to shit by seagulls. But like
He's in
theoretically,
eternal torment.
yeah. But like theoretically, when before he went into eternal torment, like he broke his leg right there. Like you heard the crack
Yeah.
and everything, and so it's safe to assume that that's like kind of like going back, like a
It's
flashback
also
almost to
yeah.
the
It
Willem
kind of
Dafoe's bum leg. You know?
you could also look at it as kind of being a loop, because
Mm-hmm.
when sorry, Willem Dafoe is talking about his last hand. He describes how he went crazy the same exact way that
Mm-hmm.
like Tom ends up going. So maybe it's happened before and it is a cycle like that. Like, and if
Time
it's
old Tom
himself, then it's
dies.
just eternal torment that way also.
Yeah.
For
See,
both
that's the way I look
himself.
at it. Is like it's
Yeah.
just he's stuck in an endless loop of eternal torment where he's constantly like he just keeps on being the hand,
Hmm.
like the new guy basically, but every single time he's being trying to get changed and he doesn't. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like this idea that like he's almost in a way being given a second chance, but like he never does. He always just
Hmm.
ends up killing the gull, killing the man, and going insane.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, and then like a lot of like obviously the more easier ones for me to pick out are like all those moments where he's just like, what do you mean you did that? Like where he's like,
Yeah.
oh, you broke the little dinghy, like it wasn't
Hmm.
me. You just tried to run at me with an axe. Like I was
Yeah.
like, all right, they're got to be the same person. Or like you ate all the rations. The rations are gone. We've been here for like 4 weeks now or something. And he's just like,
Hmm.
what?
I
Like,
think like also just on top of story wise, I think it's also just another way to keep the audience on their toes. Like,
mm-hmm,
what do you believe at this point?
exactly.
Like, so really good
No,
device for
because
that.
I'm almost immediately, and this is just because maybe I'm more used to that kind of movie with this idea that there's someone imaginary taunting this like the real person, right? Like I've seen a lot of movies do that. So, naturally as soon as I saw that he was holding a pipe, that's probably when I initially was like, okay, maybe they might be the same person. So then I started paying more attention to that. And maybe that's why like I have this deep-seated like feeling that they really are. Even towards the end. And obviously like you've already brought up and we've brought up before is like it's definitely an avenue to go down. But like
Mhm.
like I think that's where it like comes from for me is because like I've seen other movies like this that do this like do that kind of thing. And so the moment I saw that, like I was just like, okay, now I gotta watch out for all the ways in which they could be the same person. However, aside from that, like there's so many other avenues that you could look at it from. Like you said, like it could just be an endless loop of him instead of looking at it from perpetual torment and like this idea that like um you know Willem Dafoe is not real and he's just tormenting himself the entire time.
Mhm.
That in actuality, Willem Dafoe is always there, and then there's always this guy that comes in and goes insane and then breaks down and then
Mhm.
dies. And in this case, unfortunately, Willem Dafoe is a part of the insanity and ends up getting killed in the insanity. But in this retrospect, like
Mhm.
um, we have another person that dies, basically. Another
Yeah.
person in the loop, and so now another hand will come and go insane and die.
Yeah. One
Well,
thing that
maybe.
I'm kind of unsure about, at least directly, is there's a shot where they're on top, like it kind of seems like a dream sequence almost, where he's on top of the lighthouse and you see there's somebody tied up on the ground, and then Robert Pattinson goes down to look at him and he sees it's himself, and then he turns
Yeah.
around and Willem Dafoe is naked and has light glowing from his eyes, and they're posed in
Yes.
a very specific way where it has to be a reference to some painting, some mythological painting. I have no idea what the painting is, but there's no if you go and look at that frame, it is so obviously like a old like probably sailors like painting because of the way that like they're posed is so painterly. I just don't know what it's referencing exactly. I'm sure it has more to do with kind of like the mythology of Prometheus and I think like Protos and stuff like that. He even mentions Prometheus. I realized this time and stuff like that. So it was definitely in the mind of Robert Eggers when he was writing it. Also, just a little side note. Same director as The Witch. Which one do you like better? Have
Oh.
you seen The Witch? Yeah, you've
Yeah,
seen The
yeah, yeah,
Witch,
no,
right?
of course I've seen
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Witch.
okay.
That's hard. I
For
really
me,
like The
this movie,
Witch.
like, I really like The Witch, but this movie is like, I think this is like twice as good as The Witch, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, I still like The Witch. It's just, it's a lot simpler than this movie. I feel like this movie is way more ambitious than The Witch. Like,
So,
I think The Witch is a really solid, like, kind of lower budget horror, like, really, really good, and this is like, "Oh, now he has a budget, and he can do all this crazy shit and do all the things he couldn't do before," and, like, I just think it's a better movie because of that, personally. But I would understand if you said you like The Witch more.
I
I feel
kind
like
of
The Witch is
feel like
probably more consumable for most people,
I don't
you
I
know?
wouldn't say like that for me because like I really did enjoy this
I'm not
like
saying you
but
specifically, I just mean
like
generally, if you were to show somebody The Witch in the Lighthouse, they're gonna be like, "The Witch, I kinda got. The Lighthouse is like, what?" Like, you know what I
mhm.
mean? So, yeah. But what are you thinking?
Well, I think The Witch for me, I like a lot. See, it's hard to compare that because for me, like, I think both of them does do like an amazing job. So like, I don't really have, I guess, a preference on that because The Witch for me would be a different movie than this one.
Mhm.
Like, I guess on the topic of like, if I was to sit down and be given a choice to watch The Witch or The Lighthouse after seeing them both, um, see, even that's like biased because I would probably say The Witch, but that's just because I just saw The Lighthouse right now, and
Mhm.
like I haven't seen The Witch in a while, so I'd probably want to rewatch The Witch. But if I had seen them
I
both on the same
rewatched
time,
it. Yeah. I rewatched it recently, The Witch,
hmm
and oh yeah, I also when I was looking for stuff about this movie, apparently they wanted to shoot The Witch on black and white film, but didn't have the budget to. So again, like that kind of my point that I like The Lighthouse because it is now Robert Eggers unleashed. He now has all the tools to make whatever the fuck he wants, and that's like perfect. Uh, but The Witch is like a fantastic. I think even putting it as like a low budget film seems like harsh because it really is an amazing horror movie that
hmm
I think kind of kicked off or a little bit of this renaissance of like kind of I don't want to call it smart horror, but because that seems kind of pretentious, but I don't know what to call it. Where like Hereditary, Midsummer, things like that. This kind of uh, more nuanced type of horror rather than like jump scares or slasher movies. I feel like The Witch had like a big part in kind of starting this renaissance. So, you got to give a lot of credit to The Witch. Oh, you found it. What
I
is that?
did. I had to blur. I was trying to blur out the dick because it's actually
Okay.
nude. But yes. So this is actually hang on. Let me make sure that because I can pull up the name, but I gotta make sure that I do this properly so I don't get fucking destroyed by Twitch because apparently it's bad to show nudity on Twitch if it's not in a movie.
You just showed it, by the way.
Did
It's
I?
already up. Yeah.
No, I showed the picture.
Oh.
I'm gonna show the name of the artist and everything. So
Oh.
I'm pulling that up, but I had the picture still up on
Does
Google,
it say
so
what
I
the
gotta pull it up.
painting's of?
Yeah, so it's called Hypnosis.
Okay.
And it's made by Sascha Schneider. And
What year was it? Does it say?
when was this done? 1904.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. And basically, is there any writing about this other than Wikipedia?
There has to be.
Here, I can
You link it to me? I'll look
I can
myself
pull it
too.
up. Oh, that didn't pull it up. Or it did, but not what I
Maybe
wanted
this
to
is
pull up.
a rendition of a different painting, because, that happens throughout history.
This is apparently according to Google when I was researching it, this is the original.
Oh, that is?
Yeah, so
I'm really
this
surprised that it
is
said 1900s. I feel like it would be an earlier painting than that.
me trying to find out when
The 1900s.
what is this for? Oh, is it because the picture's in there?
Yeah, I
And
think it has
SFW?
the dick.
The piece of art was a direct inspiration for the scene. Um, I
They're talking
can't
about the
see.
lighthouse.
Yeah, so
I
that's
just
where I
want to,
found
yeah.
it, but
I just want to know what the painting's supposed to be of, because then that can tell us about the movie.
I guess it's just a painting.
It has to be of something, you'd think.
Not really. I mean, according to like how he designs his paintings, they said that he just did a
Oh, are
lot
these
of
all the
like
same guy, by the way?
yeah, all these are the
These are
same guy.
amazing. Wow. What's this guy's name?
Sascha Schneider. I can here. I'll link you the
Yeah, link
actual
it
link
to
for
me.
this.
That's some amazing artwork. I love that shit.
Just put it in here in general for you. So yeah, apparently according to Wikipedia, when I was reading the Wikipedia, he was basically just known for doing art that was big into like nudity and understanding of dark and light. And this like where was it? I don't even see it. Apparently he suffered from a diabetic seizure during a ship voyage.
During ooh, what? He died on a ship?
He did.
I wonder. See, I bet you that has some sort of connection
And
there.
obviously pulp culture, so this is it because it's right here. So Schneider's painting Hypnosis in the gallery below inspired a key shot in the Robert Eggers film The Lighthouse.
He must have just saw it and was like, "That looks cool." But
Yeah.
that means there has to still be meaning behind it. So again, I think it's just more of that Willem Dafoe's character is just casting judgment. Like he views through the lighthouse, like basically this judgmenting light. Because even at the end, I'm all on board for this idea that he's being judged the entire time. Because even at the end, he gets rejected. You know, like, oh, does he seem worthy to be in the lighthouse, and he gets thrown away.
Hmm.
So I think it's all about judgment and maybe moral judgment, I would have to say. If you were to put
I
a
like the
very
fact that
big,
it's called
broad thing. Yeah,
hypnoticism.
hypno. See, that makes me think like hypnosis. I mean, he's kind of
Hypnosis.
obsessed with the lighthouse. Is that maybe a connection? Like, because he almost hypnotized by it, the light.
Maybe.
Also,
Well,
the
I was
light is, I
willing
think
to
it, and
accept
the light also represents knowledge,
result to
just generally.
size works of artists like fell out of favor soon after. He accepted homo eroticism, but not homosexuals. Explaining the exhibit press release, he was forced to resign from his prestigious Italy
Man,
in the
these paintings are
1900s.
amazing though, or these drawings or whatever they are. They remind me of really kind of an older style, like that kind of mythological, maybe, Greek artwork,
Mm.
like almost statuesque,
That's what I
but
was
with
thinking. Like they're
these
really.
weird like kind of twists on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dante's Inferno type, like, those depictions of hell, but maybe even like darker.
They were always done in charcoal or oil too.
Damn, I don't understand how you
Projecting
use
not only a
charcoal. I tried
mirror
using
against the
charcoal
burning
one
light.
time, and I'm like, how do you draw anything with this?
Oh, it's super fun. I love charcoal.
I don't understand. You'd have to teach me how to do it because the my professor did not. So I was completely just lost on what it even. He just gave me a piece of charcoal and just like draw something.
Look at this fan art.
And
What?
oh, let me see your stream. Hold on. Damn,
That's pretty cool.
man, black and white is so beautiful.
It
I
really
love black
is.
and
It
white.
does so
It because
good
it
too for this movie.
once I mean, I love color also. I think color is a beautiful thing. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying I don't like color, but black and white, at least in like film and photography, it all it does is accentuate light, and light is like the foundation of film. And I just think it's beautiful in that way. That it's just almost like pure light if you think about it. There's a spectrum of light, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
No sort of different rays that are being captured, I guess. Also, I think I'm just biased because I'm a film nerd, and film history is in black and white. And I grew up watching great filmmakers film in black and white and use film. So yeah, probably just biased also. But I just have a big appreciation for the use of darkness, and I think that's another reason why, just in filmmaking in general, why light and dark is always, or I mean, I guess in storytelling, it's also been a through line too. But light and dark, like motifs in film, have always been a thing because you can always show that through a camera, light and dark.
Mm-hmm.
Even just like simple lighting techniques where you top light a villain because then they have big shadows under their eyes and they look menacing.
There's a side by
The
side
side by
though.
side, yeah. I'm just spouting about light. That's how
No,
much
you're
nerd
fine.
I'm
No.
shouting about how much I like light. That's a film nerd thing to do. Okay, I'm just gonna stop.
Yeah, but that's the side by side. I was looking at pictures now, like on Google from like the thing. It's incredible. There's obviously the sequel we had talked about with no eye or one eye. So
Yeah,
when
you
you
know
looked
what's
at it from
funny
that
on
side.
A24? They have free posters you can print out, and that's the poster. If you go to A24's website and then go
Oh,
to, I think there's
really?
like, yeah. Let's see if
Now,
I can
what
find
was
it.
all right? So, in your opinion, what was the point of the mermaid? Like, what is the point of the
Again,
sirens?
there's kind of like sexual temptation, I think.
Is that really it?
More of that,
Because
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Like
obviously,
again,
there's that whole scene where he's like
I
obviously
think it,
having sex with the
yeah,
mermaid.
it's just impulse. Like it's to show that he can't control himself.
Mm-hmm.
He murders out of impulse. He jacks off in a shed out of impulse. He's very impulsive, and I think that just like that whole mermaid thing adds to that. That specifically, it's just the sexuality part of it.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what
Even
like the witch would look like in black and white. I kind of want to like get the witch
imagine.
and then turn it into black and white and then rewatch it.
What's funny? I know you haven't seen Parasite, but Parasite, when they did the Criterion release, the Bong Joon Ho created a black and white version of Parasite.
Is it better than the
Like a
color?
modern movie. I've heard it's not,
Oh.
but for specific reasons, because it's kind of weird to shoot a movie with color in mind and then take it away.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing that, you kind of have to know what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
So to just be like, oh, yeah, I'm sure it's Bong Joon Ho and he's a genius, but I'm sure no matter how hard you try to make it seem like it was meant to be that way, there's things that won't,
Mm-hmm.
as
Yeah,
we
I
see
guess
here.
that's a fair point because obviously when you shoot with color involved, you have that idea of well, like what this is gonna
Yeah.
look like in color and how you need to
And then
light it
color
for the
dictates
color,
light also.
right?
So like if they could be wearing like a red top and like completely different colored pants that gives off this vibe like, oh, this is what this character's about. But
Mm-hmm.
then it kind of looks like the same shade of gray in black and white. And then you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, what am I supposed to do? These are two different colors. And now it looks weird because it's like, there's no color difference. So things like that. So I can't feel like I'm saying so a lot because I'm trying to go to the next idea in my head and it's not coming. I might be out. Maybe that's it.
You're out of what?
Ideas
Ideas?
to talk about. Yeah, get me going on something. Say something about this movie. What else did you think of it? Anything else?
Um, let's see. I mean, there's so much, honestly. To be honest, like, there's so many
I
little
wish we
things that
could.
I was like,
I
wow.
wish we could scrub back through it and like look at certain shots,
Oh, I
but
know.
the way that works doesn't work like that, right?
No, and also, I can't like pull it
Yeah.
up either because it would be like
Yeah,
TOS.
I know. That
Although
sucks.
the nudity that I've shown on stream might be TOS too, so I don't know. I really don't know how this stuff works at this point.
I
It's
mean,
like it's
I haven't
okay
pulled
if you're
down
playing
yet.
the game Cyberpunk. It's okay if you watch the movie through the watch thing. But if I'm actually just doing like a just chatting, is it okay if I pull up an image that's a painting of nudity? I don't know. I feel like that's something I could probably dispute.
I feel
But
like as long as it's tasteful,
yeah, I mean,
not
I'm
just
not
like
like just
porn.
sitting on it and just like, yeah, guys, let's look at this for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
Let's see.
um,
Okay. Shop.
there was something. I'm trying to think. I love the omniscient, like not the omniscient, but like the callback, which you don't know like right away the first scene that you see, but like when he first is out in the water, like you see him walking out into the water and there's all those logs. Like that's like obviously a callback or like a foreshadowing, I guess. It wouldn't really be a callback. It would be a callback for him, but a foreshadowing for you as a viewer because you're like foreshadowing what it you don't know yet, which is he's gonna eventually tell you basically spill the beans and tell you that he basically killed someone and they died in the logs, right? Like so I think that's interesting. Is this idea that like that's kind of like a callback to that? I don't really know. Oh. We lost James. PC blue screened. It's unfortunate. But yeah. By the way, guys, while he's restarting here, I'm gonna kind of talk about some stuff real quick. So obviously this was the Lighthouse, made in 2019. I want to say should be
Okay.
2019. So I think it was awesome. I think the watch party worked really well and everything went well there.
Yes, we have to. I'll have to find what other gems we can find on Amazon
Yeah, I
for
gotta see
free.
if we rent, like, can I watch it? Because that'd be an interesting thing. Because if I can
And
rent, then
that
that
would
opens
be that would
everything
open
up.
up so many
Oh, it really
possibilities if you
would.
could do that. I could go crazy with shit like that.
Oh yeah, but I think this is a cool way to do it because, like, honestly, I think it was an enjoyable experiment, or well, it was an experiment.
Oh, they have
Experience is what I
Wheels
meant to
on
say, but
Meals with Jackie Chan for
watch
free
a
on
watch
Prime.
a Jackie Chan movie.
I'd
Jackie
love to do that.
Chan. We could
Get
totally do
Tommy
that.
in here for that.
We'd have like a relook at the fighting scenes.
They have the Fog. I've never seen the Fog. That's
New
John
one or the old
Carpenter.
one?
1980.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know
That's a good
which
one.
new. Is there a new one?
Now that's one that I've seen and you haven't. Yeah, there is a
Yeah, that's
new
John
The
Carpenter.
Fog.
I haven't seen it yet.
Let
When
me
is the
see.
new? When would the new one come out? Brick is on
Um,
here. Brick's a great movie.
2005 is the new one,
Oh, yeah, I've never even heard of that one.
and it's directed by Rupert Wainwright, based on John
Yeah,
Carpenter.
I'm sure it was not as good. Ooh, oh, this movie costs money. I was about to say I wanted to see this.
Tom Wellings. Yeah, it rated 4% on Rotten Tomatoes. 1 star.
Wow, that's real low, even for Rotten Tomatoes standards.
That's what I mean. Like that's
Ooh,
really.
there's a
I wonder.
documentary I've heard. I know nothing about it besides
What about
this
the original
documentary.
Fog? The original Fog. In retrospect, the original Fog on Rotten Tomatoes is 75% 4 star in comparison to the
Yeah.
4% 1 star.
Don't remake John Carpenter movies, please.
Yeah, no,
I don't
leave them the way
appreciate
they
that.
are. I gotta say,
They're so charming.
personally, The Fog is, I like it. I think it's a good movie.
If you want to stick with horror movies, have you seen Suspiria, by the way?
No,
Suspiria, the new Suspiria. I am not even talking. 2018 Suspiria is fucking amazing. And that's also on Prime.
I'd love to do like a new movie, one that like you and me haven't seen too. That would be really
Yeah.
cool.
See, the thing is, like, movie I haven't. Oh, Under the Silver Lake. That's one on Prime I haven't seen. And I've been meaning to because this is the same director of It Follows,
Oh, really? Oh, maybe
and
we should watch that.
it had a theatrical release and it didn't
Hmm.
release anywhere around here, so I never got to see it. Now it's on Prime.
Are
Bam.
we? Do you have any last remarks about
The
The
Lighthouse.
Lighthouse?
If you didn't just watch it with us, then go watch it
Yes, I
because you
definitely agree
it's
with that.
worth it. Unless you really are adverse to weird films. If you'll know. If you
If
don't
you
like
don't
weird
like
films, don't
artsy,
watch it.
like psychological horror movies, that it's probably not something you're gonna be interested in.
I'm just trying to think of it
Uh,
like how my mom would say about this. Like, yeah, if you don't like it's a weird movie.
it's
So if you
definitely
don't
out
like
there.
that, don't watch it.
I wouldn't say it's
You
hard to
know?
follow though. Honestly, like there's definitely movies that I've watched that are harder to follow than this. But it's
Like what?
definitely like outlandish in a way.
Was it really hard to follow a movie, in your opinion?
Eraserhead.
You never saw the whole thing.
I was hard to follow from the start.
Yeah, okay. It does make sense if you watch it,
It
but
does. Actually, I could probably rewatch it now, knowing the premise, and actually maybe enjoy it.
yeah, because I
But
told you what it was about,
yeah,
right?
but going
So,
into that one in comparison to this one, like this one right off the bat, like I was like, okay, I
yeah.
kind of can see where this might be
It,
leading.
I think it like it's not so weird that you're completely thrown off. Like Eraserhead is so out there that you
Oh,
can
it's
just
super
be like,
fucking out there.
yeah. So no, I would agree. It's not as hard to follow as Eraserhead. Is there another movie? I'm just curious. Is there another movie that you have,
Ooh,
or is that like your
that's
biggest
harder
one,
to follow.
or just like a hard to follow movie in general, like in your opinion?
I don't
Maybe
know.
Inception. People like to think
I
Inception's
don't
hard to
think
follow.
Inception's that hard to follow. Do you?
I think the first time there was like a couple things I was confused about, but like generally I understood what was
Yeah, maybe
happening.
I've just seen it too many times. I've watched Inception,
Yeah.
believe it or not, like 7 times probably.
What? Wow.
Yeah, in total. A lot of
That's a
movies that
lot.
I think are really good, like I'll watch over and over
By
again,
the way, we need
especially
to
if they're
watch Tenet.
free.
I haven't
And
seen
then
Tenet yet.
I need to see. Okay, so as soon as if we can rent, and as soon as it's available for rent, we will probably try and review Little Things with Rami Malek, and
Oh, okay.
I think
It's
that
on
would be an
HBO
interesting.
Max.
I don't have
I don't
HBO
know.
Max.
I do, but I don't know how we would
We
do
can't do
that.
that through Amazon Prime
Yeah.
though for watch
Yeah.
parties. I don't think so. We have to wait till it's rentable or it comes out on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. My mom watched it, I guess.
Oh, did she?
Yeah. I don't really
I
remember
don't
too
know if
much
it's any
about it.
good. I want to go into that one knowing like absolutely nothing because I'm hoping for
Yeah.
the
I don't know
best with
anything
Rami
about it.
Malek, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I didn't even watch the whole trailer. I just kind of saw the beginning of it.
Hmm. So
Or it sounded
that'll
good.
probably be one. But like I think that would be a fun way to do like newer movies that are coming out is to like review them here because I think that'd be fun to do
Yeah.
it on podcast. So we can kind of
Yeah.
do like a movie review podcast, and then when there's no movies coming out because COVID, um, we'll do our usual where we come up with a topic and we'll kind of fill in with those, or we do topic fill-ins, or we just talk about whatever we feel like talking about, rambling
The
on.
junk box.
It's the junk box.
I rambled about filmmaking like for that whole review. So
Hey, I mean that's fine though. The thing with
it was
like
on
this review
topic.
is like, yeah, it was like, so I mean, ultimately, guys. All right, here's the review. You want to know the down and dirty review? We
Now
both,
here it is. All the stuff before this, don't need to listen
yeah,
to. Right
like
now,
right now, we made you listen to the whole podcast just so you could get to this moment though. Like instead of telling you at the beginning, so you could have been like, all right, now I know, like I could go watch this. No, no, we made you wait and muddle through everything else to get to this point. But I think the down and dirty truth of this movie is that we think, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's really good.
yes.
I think we both can
That,
agree that it's a really good movie, and if you're into those sort of artsy thriller horror movies, or just artsy in general, where it's like abstract thought being portrayed kind of in this like mythological manner and manifestation, this is definitely something that would be right up your alley. It's not crazy, crazy, crazy complex, but it's complex enough that I feel like it would probably be off-putting for people that have a hard time with something like um, following Fight Club or following like Inception. Like if you really have a hard time with those, and I'm not saying like a couple hiccups here and there where you're like, oh, I didn't like understand where they went from there, um, you probably won't be able to hang on to this one. Or if you, like I said, you just don't like artsy movies. Like if that's not something, if you like to just be able to sit back and enjoy a movie, and not have to really pay attention, brain off kind of movie watching, this is not your type of movie.
Yeah, I would say like if you watch the trailer for this and you're like no, then that you won't like it.
Yeah,
So
you've answered your
it's
kind
one
of
of those
question.
movies. It's easy to tell if you like it or not.
Hmm.
Like I saw the trailer. Well, I mean, again, a bunch of other biases. Actors I like, director I like. Obviously I was so excited, but looking at it, I would have been excited regardless because it looks really rad.
Yeah.
But
So
also, hopefully you didn't listen to this whole podcast and not watch the movie, and we spoiled the shit out of it.
that's
So
true too.
I'm hoping that you watched it.
Hopefully you got to enjoy the movie and then you watch the podcast. So
Yes, because that would make me hurt if I found out that somebody had listened to this entire thing, got it spoiled, and then watched it for the first time. I think I might
I didn't even
lose
watch
my
the
mind.
trailer before tonight, to be honest. I just let it ride. I was waiting for
Yeah.
this night, so I was just like, you know what, we're gonna watch it. I want to go into it knowing nothing. I do that a lot though.
The
Like that
trailer
was
really doesn't
something
give much
you
away.
were
Like
like,
I gotta say, it's not one that will like spoil things.
hmm,
So you can, if you want to see what the film is like, then I would say go watch the trailer.
yeah, for sure. But I think unless you have anything else to say, Corny,
Nope. Before I do,
all
let's end
right.
it.
So I think we'll wrap up here. This is episode 6 of the Junk Box. Next week we'll most likely be doing another one unless we decide to randomly do Apex. So that should be 7th episode. Maybe we'll do another watch party. I don't really know. So, but plan for episode 7 next week. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember, you can see us on Spotify or on YouTube if you want to see the visual version. The visual version is just me with a camera and Corny's profile pic looking at you guys. So, I mean, it's not like vivid visuals, and especially for something like this, like your best visual is to go watch the movie before watching this. So, um, uh, luckily you don't if you're listening to this on Spotify, you didn't really miss much visually. Besides maybe the picture. So, other than that,
But you can look that up.
yeah, and I definitely gave the name and everything. So, other than that, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for coming by, hanging out. I know me and Corny both appreciate it. And we'll see you guys in the next Junk Box. Peace out, guys.